Hey, what up guys, Brandon here. Okay, so today I'm going to do something I've been planning on doing for a while. I will be going over some Easter eggs and things you will notice in Gran Turismo 3 that maybe you didn't know before. Here we go. Okay, so first off, let's start off with the biggest elephant in the room, hidden cars. This is the Lamborghini Nomad Diablo GT. This was introduced actually in Japan's Gran Turismo 3. It was removed from Gran Turismo 3 in the North American and European releases. You can find the body in the North American release, but all mentionings of Lamborghini are scrubbed from the car. This is due to licensing issues. You can also find it in the European version's coding, but the body is replaced with that of a Daihatsu. This right here is the Porsche 911 GT3 996 model. It was to be the only Porsche in the game. It was not released on any version of the game. This is because Electronic Arts, or EA, had bought the rights to Porsche for their Need for Speed series, so Gran Turismo could not add this to the game. Interestingly, both this and the Rough RGT were going to be almost the same car. The car's body remains in the game in the North American release, and I think also the Japanese release. But it's a little bit odd. You cannot modify or sell this car. Also, it's in the European release of the game, but the body, again, like the Diablo, is removed and replaced with that of a Daihatsu. Other hidden cars do exist in the game that I do not own, like special colors for cars, as well as a Lancia Stratus, its rally car counterpart, the Lancia Stratus rally car, a couple Mazda Miatas, and the Nissan Skyline A-Spec. Let's get started on the Formula 1 cars. What they really are in real life, as they have real life counterparts, is based on their numbers and their letter. The F094S is based on Ayrton Senna's 1994 zero-stroke engine Formula 1 Williams. The S stands for Senna, the 0 stands for the strokes of engine, and the 94 stands for the year. The F687S is based on Senna's 1987 six-stroke Lotus. In fact, interestingly, this car came back in Gran Turismo 6. But it was the 1986 counterpart, which comes in black and leaf gold, or gold leaf, my bad. This is a version, well, a color scheme that didn't really exist with the car, as the real F687S was yellow and blue. The F688S is Ayrton Senna's 1988 McLaren. The F686M is Nigel Mansell's 1986 Williams. The F090S is Ayrton Senna's 1990 McLaren. And the F094H is Damon Hill's 1994 Williams. A little tragic backstory with the F094S. The real-life 1994 Williams that Ayrton Senna was driving was actually the car he died in a tragic accident on May 1st, 1994 during the San Marino Grand Prix. Some cars have different sponsors, depending which region you're playing this game in. In North America, Exxon is the sponsor of the Toyota GT1 race car and the Peugeot 206 rally car. In other versions of the game, this is Esso. This is due to a partnership between Exxon and Esso, which occurred during the time. In fact, in Gran Turismo 4, there was a blue JGTC Supra that was sponsored by Esso. This car did not see the release in GT5 because of the partnership ending around that time between Exxon and Esso. The Dodge Viper GTSR Team Orca has quite an odd backstory. In the North American release, it's the Dodge Viper GTSR Team Orca, has no PlayStation sponsor on the front, and is number 91. In the Japanese and European releases of the game, it's the Chrysler Viper, has number 51 on it, and has a PlayStation logo on the hood. Due to the removal of racing modifications from Gran Turismo starting with the third game, some cars that were racing mods of older cars became their own cars. For example, the Storm V12 race car. Interestingly, this car did not see its street car counterpart in any other Gran Turismo game since GT2. And did you know that the Spoon S2000 race car was once a racing mod for the S2000? Originally with a rag top that was black, they gave it a hard top in GT3 and made it its own car. Going back to the topic of version differences depending on the region, Opel is one of those major ones that people in the United Kingdom would take notice of. In every version except the European English version, this car brand is Opel. In European English, it's Vauxhall. This is because Vauxhall cars are sold in the UK instead of Opel. So the Astra touring car would have been the Vauxhall Astra touring car. But perhaps the one Opel car that would have seen the most significant difference would be a complete renaming of the Opel Speedster. In the English-speaking PAL version, the Speedster is known as the Vauxhall VX220, with a different badging and a different name. Whereas the cars perform the same, it would have been a completely different name for the car. Another car that became its own independent race car after becoming a racing mod is the XJ220 race car. This car was actually a racing mod for, you guessed it, the XJ220, which interestingly was actually called the XJ220 GT race car in Gran Turismo 2. In GT3, the XJ220 street-going version was known as the XJ220 road car. It would not be called simply the XJ220 until 2005's Gran Turismo 4. Gran Turismo 3 was actually very limited on cars and racetracks because of the more advanced graphics. It would have taken this game a long time to be developed with all the cars and tracks and more from GT2. Anyway, GT2 had about 500 to 600 cars. Gran Turismo 3 only has 182 obtainable cars. The extra 2 I have here are from cars I obtained via Action Replay. Okay, let's get on with the racetracks. Laguna Seca Raceway. This is an interesting specimen with this version of the track. GT3 is the only game so far in the series to have Laguna Seca Raceway not run during broad daylight. Since its debut in 2 and returning in 4 onwards, the course has been run during broad daylight. GT3 had it run during the dusk. Complex String is the only course in Gran Turismo 3 which doesn't see a single race on it. This is because of its length and complexity, but it can be run in 2-player mode and iLink Battle mode, which is essentially a primitive form of online playing. Test Course was actually extended from its original length. It used to be a lot wider, and it used to be a lot skinnier, actually. Now, well, let's be honest, it looks like Dover Speedway. Swiss Alps actually had an interesting backstory. Swiss Alps was once known as Smoky Mountain South, but it was redesigned and renamed. Yes, this was the southern portion to the not at all connected to Smoky Mountain North, now simply known as Smoky Mountain. Another course that got redesigned was the Super Speedway. Originally, it had a stadium-like roof over the first half of the second turn, and its pit lane only ran down its main straight and was one of the hardest to enter pit lanes in racing history. In Gran Turismo 3, the stadium roof was removed from the first half of the second turn, and pit lane was made into a sort of a wrap around the entire inside of the track pit lane. All short versions of courses did not see a release in Gran Turismo 3. For example, Grand Valley East did not make it, as well as the following: Rome Short, Clubman Stage Route 5, and Seattle Short. Even more so, Rome did have a night version of the course, which was not at all connected to the original actual thing. Even more so, Rome was completely removed in GT4, but it did make a comeback, redesigned in GT5, and was renamed to Circuito di Roma in GT6, which essentially is just Italian for Rome Circuit. Now for some Easter eggs. If you look real closely with the home section of the arcade menu, you can see the Chrysler Viper GTSR Team Orca getting pit work. This is proof that this does exist in other ports of the game, and not the US version. What's even more odd is that the Chrysler Viper in this version seems to be number 53. The real Chrysler Viper Team Orca was actually number 51. Here's an interesting one from the Japan League, which is an amateur league race. If you look real closely, you can see an American Dodge Viper in the background. I already pointed this out on my Vine if you were paying attention in the past. The European Championship also has its level of oddness. Due to these Asian-like characters in the background, I can't tell personally if it's Chinese or Japanese. I'm guessing it's Japanese because it's more curved. Chinese is more straightforward. This one's coming from the 80s Sports Car Cup. Did you know legally only 1 or 2 of these cars can enter in this race? Most of these are 90s cars. The Mazda RX-7 Infiniti 3 is a 90s car. Only one model of the MX-5 Miata is an 89. The GTR S-Tune Skyline is a 2000 model actually, although it's based on the R32 from 1989. The GTS-T Type M didn't come along till 1991. The V-Spec 2 may be able to enter, as it debuted in 1989. The Silvia KS S13 debuted in 1988, as did the KS other model. These two are practically the same, the 2000cc and the 1800cc. One's just a little bit slower. Only one of these 300ZXs could enter. One was made in 1989, the other 1998, I can't tell which. The Sprinter Torino GT Apex can enter legally. The Sprinter Torino GT Apex SS version is the Initial D looking Sprinter Torino, and this was actually made in 2000 as a special car. So technically speaking, only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these cars can enter legally. And let's be honest, you'll want to take the fastest, which is the Skyline, maybe. I don't know, you can mod a 300ZX pretty well to go fast. Initial D. Let me tell you something about that. If you're a fan of that manga, anime series, I never kept up with it, but if you're a fan of it, you should recognize this car. This was actually made for the owner of Initial D, who apparently was a Gran Turismo fan. This is based on the main character's car. If you could please fill me in with more details about Initial D, I may get into it. Thank you. Some cars saw some cosmetic redesigns in Gran Turismo 3. The Speed 12 originally didn't look like that in GT2. It had a spoiler and a much more meaner, awkward look. It was redesigned in GT3. The ZZ2 suffered a very similar fate. It also had a rear spoiler and a little bit more of a race car look. This was redesigned to the sports car-like thing you see today. Even more so, the disc design has seen its fair share of oddness. Original designs were actually just plain red, with the logo right at the top. That logo has always been there, and then the black PlayStation 2 logo. Sometime later, they redesigned it to be a blue disc, like this design right here, featuring Gran Turismo 2's format of the Super Speedway. Why they never changed that is unknown. But yes, that is GT2's, I can confirm that. When it became a greatest hits, it saw a change to red, and has not seen a blue disc in a long time. In fact, I once owned a blue disc, and I've owned plenty of these little red discs here, but never have I owned an original plain red one. I'll have to go hunting for one day. And that's pretty much all the Easter eggs with Gran Turismo 3. There are some other little tricks you can do. I mean, you can hack the game to get your cars to go, like, wicked fast. You could break through a barrier in some courses like Côte d'Azur, which is French for the Azore coast. And you could break through a barrier in Seattle Circuit. But I'm a little lazy right now to do that. Maybe one day I'll go through and show, like, some serious glitches that could screw it up or make it play weird. See you then.